I wish to thank again my friends and family for being here and sharing this with me. Actually, this is more difficult than tests that I took at school. To get past all that, now I want to really get to the lighter side of all this. You mentioned Coach did all those, told me about all those things. I didn't really realize that all these things happened until Coach Sneer put it all on paper a couple of weeks ago. I said, man, did I do all that? I said, well, I guess I did, but I never thought about it that way. It wasn't really important to me. I'm going to give you the true story, the true side of all of this. Now, my family, closely knit family, stern father, pleasing mom, dad loved sports, mom could care less. The most important thing as far as my family was concerned, as far as everything was concerned, pressing on was education. That's all mom wanted to hear. The other thing, this is what we call track and field and baseball and football and all that. She called that playing. Playing. Seriously, and she was serious about it. They pay people for that? Yes, Mom, they do. I don't understand. I'm going to share a story with you. This is honest to God truth. One of the tours I went on, I think in May of '75, we had the United States tour, and we went to the People's Republic of China. No one had ever been in that country in 15 years, and then President Nixon decided to go in, and they wanted to have a means to have some kind of fellowship or something to bring everybody together again. And they decided to have a track meet. Well, we took a team over there, probably the best track and field team ever assembled, because we didn't know what to expect from these people. But anyway, over 3 meets, we lost 1 meet. We swept everything else. But the point is, it was a great experience. Now, I'm going to get back to the family situation closely. My dad loved the idea. It was wonderful. It was great. Mom wanted to know why. Let's get back. Let's go one more step before we get to that. It's kind of funny. But well, at any rate, there's an interviewer at one of the newspapers. I don't remember which one. And I was in San Francisco at the time. We had just returned from the tour. And he wanted to do an interview with me. And he called my house. Of course, I wasn't there. My mom answered the phone. And of course, he asked where I was. And she said, I don't know. I haven't seen him. Meaning she didn't know where I was at that very moment. Well, he decided to go ahead and interview her. Now, this is the same person that could care less. Education is the most important thing. Everybody's heard if mama's not happy, nobody's happy. And that's where it was going. So he asked her, well, what do you think about this athletic prowess and all of this sort of stuff? And, what does the actual long jump actually about? What do you do? She said, I think the one who gets the dirtiest wins, because he comes home with these dirty shorts, and then she wanted to get mad at the coach because they were white. Why'd you have to have white? Couldn't it be another color? So all athletes have superstitions, and I have to have my pants pressed and had creases in my actual shorts. And she said, I can't do that, and you bring them home so dirty. But anyway, this guy actually put that caption or that interview in the paper. It ran for about a month. She also gave one other side of the story. She told him about, she asked him about football or something. She says, there's 11 guys on this side and 11 guys on that side, and they have a meeting, and they come out and they fight for about 15 seconds, and they go back and they talk about it. He put that in the paper also. So, the point what I'm getting to, the point is the most important thing, and the way we were guided, playing was not important. You do that after you get home from school, after you take off your clothes, after you do your homework. Maybe you have dinner. Then you had time to play. So We only had a couple of hours to do all that. So if the grades weren't right and everything wasn't right with mom, wasn't nothing else happening. So that's how all this came about. Really, I started running track and doing all the other sports because I wanted to get out of working with my dad. And you're looking at a kid, work, play, work, play. That decision wasn't too hard, you know. But you weren't going to do anything else unless everything else was covered. And that was the education part of it. One other story I want to share with you. This is kind of tied into the track and field thing. It really wasn't that big a deal because I was born with a lot of talent. I knew it. I'll tell you about it in a minute. The point was, I had a little thing in my head, meaning once you get to this level of competition, everybody's good. They're good. So you have to go one step further. It's up here. I used to tell them anything. They believe it. I said, if I get you to think about anything other than what you're supposed to be doing, I won. So I gave them plenty of stuff to think about. The night before, right up to the meet, the whole point. But again, I want to thank you for letting me share this moment. It's real special, you know, we all get older and everything, and that's all they talk about is Hall of Fame, and you did this way back in the day and all that. So I wish I could have kept all those things together. But anyway, I'm going to end here, but thank you very much for allowing me to share that with you. Thank you very much. Ain't used to doing this.
Thank you, Al. Our next inductee is a very quiet, shy man. Mr. Jim Wright, Coach Jim Wright, a great guy. I have a little story about Jim, but I'll save it till afterwards, just in case it's part of somebody else's speech. So Jim will be introduced and presented by Coach Paul Longano. Coach.
Okay.
Legacy. It's a word commonly used in our society in areas of family, politics, business, and athletics. And legacy can be defined in many ways. The official definition of legacy is something received by an ancestor or a predecessor. And in athletics, we tend to put emphasis on the statistical legacy. Championships, victories, things of that nature. And track and field is a very easy sport to track those types of achievements, for everything has a numeric value. But are statistics the measure of a coach's legacy? And are statistics the measure of the man? I would argue that there's a greater legacy, a non-statistical legacy, and a story within a story. I graduated from Marymount High School in 1991, and by 1993, at the freshly minted age of 20, I was hired back as an assistant varsity track coach at my alma mater. If we were at a meet, and Cincinnati Country Day was at that meet, it was a guarantee that Jim Wright would come up to me, put his arm around me, and ask me how I was doing. I must have looked nervous. Sometimes I would even be fortunate enough to get some wisdom from him. Now, to me, this was monumental because when you are a young coach, it is extremely difficult to get respect from your peers. Usually, if you're going to get respect from opposing coaches, you've got to beat them first. Yet, here is this iconic coach coming up to me, taking time out of his day, taking time away from his athletes, to give me wisdom and see how I am doing. As the seasons passed, I learned that if I had a problem, I could go to Jim Wright and I would get a solution. Now, this was the early 90s. We didn't have the internet. I couldn't go Google something. Jim was Google. And bear in mind that Marymount and Country Day were in the same district. So when you get to the district meet, only 4 athletes out of many get to advance to the regional meet. And then at the regional meet, only 4 athletes get to advance out of there to the state meet. I could never really understand why this guy would help the competition. Why would this ultra-competitive coach who loves to win help opposing coaches and opposing athletes? Because it wasn't just me that he was helping everybody. And I selfishly could not wrap my head around this thought. Why would he let us bring our athletes to his track? And then he's going to help them. And a few weeks later, we're going to compete against him and try to take spots away from his athletes. In 2001, I finally got the answer. Jim came over to Marymount to be a part of the staff, and it was during this time that I really got to know the man and the driving force behind him. He was extremely generous, giving me books, training plans, philosophies on coaching. How can I say this politically correct? Some constructive criticism every now and then. What I learned about Jim Wright is that even though he is a competitive coach, a coach who loves to win, and he has won 23 conference titles, including 10 in a row, a decade of conference championships. He loves the sport of track and field far more, and will do anything to promote the sport at its highest levels. That means helping coaches and athletes that are wearing opposing uniforms. For how many of us would coach another team's athletes to the highest levels, making their programs look good, allowing those people to bask in the glory that he created? Jim coached 7 individual state champions, 3 of whom were never involved in his program. They were from opposing schools. Legacy. It's something received by a predecessor. It's something handed down from one person to another. This is the story within the story, and this is the measure of the man. Jim, congratulations on your induction. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Jim Wright.
You did great. You did great. You're my idol. When I grew up, I'm gonna be just like
God
you.
help you. Microphone's right there.
I don't need that new fandom thing. I don't need that.